All right, guys, welcome back.
Hello.
Did you have a good 4th of July?
I did. You?
I did. Got a lot of sun,
Yes.
maybe a little too much, but I had fun. All right, guys, so we've just left the buyer series. We're going to start getting into starting off as a realtor, what we do behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah.
But first, we're going to start off with an article, something that kind of irks both of us
Yep.
because you guys read it and it's like, oh no, what is, we read it and we're like,
Come on,
yeah,
man.
we know better. So on realtor.com, there's an article that says mortgage rates just hit their highest point this year. Is it a blip or is it the housing death blow?
Oh no.
So we're going to touch on that a little bit and calm your fears and let you know that it is definitely not the death blow.
Absolutely not.
So in this article, it says that rates jumped from 6.71 to 6.81 30-year fixed mortgage.
Oh my goodness. 0.1? Panic.
So just a little tidbit. Historically, usually rates have been, pre-pandemic floating around 6 to 8%, as high as 13 and up. So
you look in the 80s and I mean just look at old records and it's like 16, 17, 18% interest rates.
yeah, so that you got to put it in perspective. Yes, they are higher than 2-3 years ago. 2-3 years ago was
The exception to the rule.
big time on every level pertaining to everything. Pandemic has a lot to do with it.
Right.
Where you might run into a little bit of a brick wall is supply is still relatively low. I believe you said there was an uptick.
Just barely. So, back in May, we were at 1.7 months of inventory. We're up to 1.9, which is a good thing. But keep in mind, people always, oh no, the housing market's going to crash. Like it did in 2008. What happened in 2008 was there was like 2 years worth of inventory on the market. So when we say inventory, what we mean is if no other houses came on the market, we would be sold out of the houses that we have. Nobody would be able to buy a house after 1.9 months. That's what inventory is. 2008, if there would have been no other houses that came on the market, they would have had 2 years worth of houses on the market. So we are nowhere near 2008. But the thing of it is, as writers, people who write these articles for Realtor.com, they want to get hits, right? They want people to read their article, understandably so. I mean, they put time into it, I get it, but all it does is it stirs up fear, and people are like, oh no, is the housing market going to crash? No, it's not going to.
Right. So, and with the lower supply, yes, houses are still relatively high. Normally, when interest rates go up, prices come down a little bit, which they are starting to. But don't let the article, the headlines, sway you.
Well, and think about it this way. Right now we're hanging out, 7.25, 7.5 interest rate, right? Percent. So let's say that you're like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy now. If you buy now, if interest rates go down, you can refinance. But if they go up, you have a lower interest rate than everybody who is waiting for the market to crash or waiting for the interest rates to come down. I hate to break it to you, and listen, it pains me too. I'm pretty young, and I would like to buy a nice house at some point, and prices are still high and all of that, right? But if you just wait around, you can never time the market. That goes for pretty much everything. So figure out what your needs are. If you can hang tight for a couple years, sure, hang tight. But don't expect everything to just come down, because the chances of it doing that are slim to none.
Well, and meanwhile, that time, you could be missing out on the home of your dreams.
For sure.
So,
and you're paying someone else's bills if you're renting.
Yes, absolutely. So there was a question in the article that says, is it still worth buying? Per Lydia's point, yes, yes, yes. there's always lenders also. They have a ton of programs out there to help reduce your costs if that's a sticking point for you,
For sure.
which for a lot of people, including myself, that is definitely a sticking point. However, making that dream possible faster for you, that's why contacting Lydia or myself, we can connect you with professionals, lenders that can really get you into a program that can still make it work for you.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, I mean, if you're renting, you're at the whim of somebody else. You know, if you have
Hmm.
if you're renting a house, you know, then and the landlord decides to sell it because equity's high, okay, maybe the next person who buys it will take you on as a tenant, but maybe they won't. You don't know that. So buying your own house, having somewhere that you can call your own, one, it's a huge sense of pride, right?
Hmm.
This is mine. And
Exactly.
two, it gives you a little bit more security knowing, hey, I've got this house, I've got it covered, I have a place to live, and I can, you know, whatever your goals are. If you're married and you want to have a family, you have a family there. If you're single and you just want to have like a super nice area where you can have friends over, nice decked out patio, all that, it's yours to do with whatever you choose. So, I mean,
Well,
really,
and that leads into our final point about the article. It's your best investment against fluctuation, against
mm-hmm,
inflation, against all those articles that you read about. You have that fixed mortgage, it statistically it puts you in a better financial situation, and it's been proven over and over again. Home ownership is your best value when you're trying to get a leg up in life, or if you're just wanting to, like Lydia said, start a family, or just have something to call your own. It's the best investment.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
we are going to get into what we're going to call the Realtor Series. We've talked about the selling process, the buying process, a little bit of what we do to help you in both of those situations, but we're going to dive into that just a little bit more. Might be a two-part series, 4-part series, because we're going to dive into this a little bit. So as a realtor, we're going to start off with what it means for us, what we do if you're a seller.
Mm-hmm.
Lydia, Dan, I want to sell my house. We've talked about what we do when we show up for the appointment, but we're going to talk a little bit of what we do a little bit like behind the scenes.
For sure.
Okay. So you call up Lydia and you say, Lydia, you know what? I need to sell my house. She's going to do some homework.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of homework specifically? We've tossed around that CMA. What's that
Right.
CMA about?
So you've got this comparative market analysis, and what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to find your neighborhood, your area. We're going to try the best we can to stay in the same school district, and we're going to pull comparable houses to yours that have sold in your area, and that's really going to determine value. And a great example of this is I have a buyer who he's buying a house in one city, and he's on the west side of the city. If you just cross the road, you're in another city. I mean,
Yep.
it's one main road, that's it, and you're in another city. So the comps in that city are a little bit more than the comps in this city. And so when I ran numbers for him, I let him know that, like, hey, there's a good chance that the realtor and that even the appraiser is going to pull comps from this other city, not just in Warren, but as realtors, like, we really, really do the best we can to stay within that, because that's really the best determination of your value. And most of the time, appraisers won't cross. Sometimes they will.
Yep.
An appraiser really is a professional opinion. That's what it is. But most of the time, they're going to stay right within. And I mean, our manager just had a situation like that where she had a house where she pulled, but she let her seller know up front, hey, I'm pulling some of these comps from the next city over. It's not that far. So that couldn't impact, and it did, but her seller wasn't thrown off by it.
Yep.
So,
Well, and you touched on a good point. Well, as a seller, Why are you doing a CMA? Well, because a buyer's agent is going to do that same CMA to make sure that it's appropriately priced. You can sell your house for $1 million. It's your house.
Mhm.
However, when you contact Lydia, you contact myself, we're going to go in and do that and say, okay, here's what it's realistically going to sell for, or here's a range.
Right.
You tell us where you think your house is in that range, and we can give you scenarios of, how, ways to strategize so that
Mhm.
way you get, yes, you want top dollar. Yes, we're trying to get you top dollar, but we have to be realistic as well because those buyer agents are going to pull those same numbers and do the same homework to make sure that they're, doing what's right for
For
their
sure.
buyer.
And don't, I mean, when you're getting ready to sell your house, chances are you're going to meet with a few different realtors at
Hmm.
least. Um, don't always be drawn by the dollar signs. You really, I know it's so hard because it's emotional and it's your home, but you do want to look at it as if it was your neighbor's house, not yours. You want to look at it if you were a buyer walking into your neighbor's house that looked identical to yours, what value would you assign it? Because that's exactly what other buyers are going to do. And if
Yep.
your neighbor's house is for sale for $10,000 less than yours and it looks identical to them, I know it's not to you because again, if you've lived there a long time, it is emotional. We understand that.
Hmm.
But the buyer's going to want to go with the one that's 10,000 less. Why? Because it's to them it doesn't have that same emotional value. So really when you're getting ready to sell your house, it's a tough thing and it's an emotional thing, but do your best to kind of distance yourself from that and look at it realistically because there are other realtors, not all, but there are definitely realtors out there. They'll come in and say, "Oh no, I can sell your house for $25,000 more than this agent said they
Mm.
could." But what's going to happen is you're going to if the comps don't match, if you're looking and the value does not match, he's going to list it for that, or she are going to list it for $25,000 more. Let's say your house is worth 250,000. Now I can sell it for 275. They're going to list it for 275, and after a week of no showings, they're going to call you up and say, "Hey, let's come down a little bit." So then you're going to put it up for 265, and then nothing's going to happen for another week. And then they're going to call you up a week later and say, "Hey, let's list it for 255."
Yep.
And it's just going to keep going down. And you're not going to really get your money's worth. And now you've wasted time. You could have had a buyer through that would have bought it if it would have been less.
Yep.
And they're moved on to another house. And so it's important to price it right.
Well, and you talked about, okay, if it's too high, we got to come down. Buyers look at that.
Mm-hmm.
You lose a lot of leverage if you start coming down in price. Those buyers are going to want to know why. One, is it something to do with the home?
Mm-hmm.
Two, maybe the sellers are a little bit desperate. I can get them to come down a little bit more. So behind the scenes, we're already churning our cogwheels and thinking of strategy to put you in the best position.
Absolutely.
It's not to burst your bubble to try to tell you, well, it's not worth that much. Again, it's your home. However, we're in the market day in, day out. We know, we see what accurate pricing can do for you.
Absolutely.
So, having said that, we're going to come out and we're going to look at the condition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've already done the homework. We're not talking about how the appointment's going to go. We're just giving you an idea of what we do before we even show up, what we're looking at when we do show up. So we're looking at condition, what kind of return you might get as far as different home repairs, whether that's a fresh coat of paint, switching your plugs over to GFCI. There's
There's things that increase value and things that increase saleability too.
yes.
So, adding on, let's say you add on a nice big patio, right? That's going to bring your value up. You put in an in-ground pool. That's something that, yes, that increases your value. Putting new shutters on or getting a new roof done. Those are maintenance things. But that does increase your saleability. So if somebody walks into your house and they're like, "Oh, the roof's just been redone," they're much more likely to buy your house. But it doesn't necessarily increase your value. So do understand that going into it.
So I know there's curb appeal, which that's a little bit of what we're talking about, but you have some statistics
Yes.
on what kind of return you get on different types of things that we look at when we're showing up to give you an idea of what you can put your house on the market for.
Yeah. So this is like cost recovery. What actually is going to help you out? Whether that's you living in the house, you're like, oh, I'm not. This could go for sellers. This could go for if you're just gonna stay. But roofing is a big thing. You get, a new roof. You're gonna have a buyer. I have a buyer I'm working with right now. In the last 2 houses, I got him under contract with. The first one, it was really rough. Okay. But the second one that I got him under contract with, it was a pretty good house, but the roof and the furnace were 2 things that he knew he was going to have to replace in the next 5 to 10 years, both of those things. And then there was another issue that came into play, and he was like, oop, I got the roof and the furnace. And this house had just been flipped. So flippers, if there's any flippers watching this, double check the roof. Because he walked on it, because there was too many things wrong with it. So roofing, if you get the roof redone, I know that's a big expense, but if you can do it, man, people are going to want that house because I don't have to worry about the roof for another, 10, 15 years, 20 years. So
for our number people out there, our analyticals out there, what kind of percent return do you see on a roof?
So this is off of the National Association of Realtors website. This is a remodeling impact report, and roofing is 100%.
100% return.
100% return.
That's pretty good.
Garage door, same thing. Brand new garage door. I mean, think about it. You pull up to the house. It could be a beautiful house, but if the garage door looks dilapidated, oh come on. They don't want to. They're not going to want to look at it. Fiber cement siding is 86%. Vinyl siding is 82%. Vinyl windows, 67% return. And again, that's just one more thing that people are like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. Wood windows are at 63%. Especially here in Michigan, you get wood. Then you have to kind of contend with humidity and whatnot. Vinyl typically is a better choice. Steel front door, 63%, and a fiberglass front door is 60% return.
So really, the point of that is, we have that knowledge when we come in and we suggest to you, hey, okay, what's your timeline? What's your budget? Like all of that plays into it, because if you feel like, hey, I want to move and I'm not doing this, okay, fine. Well, we're still going to be able to suggest, hey, do you have a weekend where you can come in and, do the paint, do the plugs,
Yeah.
So it's something that, we are doing to set you up for success.
Yep. And I had a listing appointment not too long ago where the house was in need of some repairs. And I took this information with me. I mean, I have interior and exterior, right? And I took it with me, and they had hardwood floors that would need to be refinished. Look at this report. It says for the interior hardwood flooring refinish, you get 147% return on that.
So you're gonna make money on doing that repair.
Absolutely. Because again, if the people who come in, if they look and they see the floors, they're like, oh, I gotta refinish these floors. And they're gonna either not offer at all or give you a lowball offer because they know they have to make that repair. Unless it's an investor. Yeah. And then a lot of times a lot of investors know how to negotiate. Okay, they've been, so they're gonna be like, oh no, I'm gonna lowball them. And they're gonna way lowball you in hopes that you'll meet them in the middle. So again, it's just little things,
Right. So it's definitely, again, she's not doing that in front of her client. She's taking that information, like she said, and doing that homework behind the scenes.
And I brought this with me. I brought this remodeling impact report with me, and I gave it to him. I printed it out, and I was like, here you go. If you want to know what's going to help, here's some things that are going to help you out. And they took it and they decided to do some work on it because they were going to increase the value.
Right.
So they're still in the process of repairs, but when that does come about, the listing's going to sell for a little bit more. That's going to make them more money. And she's, the lady's going to be very glad to have that off of her plate and not get ripped off in the midst of it.
So repairs are done or not done, depending on what you choose. So we get it on the market. There's something that we do as realtors that you don't see called reverse prospecting. Reverse prospecting, basically, Lydia has a buyer. She's creating a search for her buyer, right? Well, I have access to the information. Well, who is out there looking for your house? Did you guys miss me?
Of
All
course.
right, so reverse prospecting. So I go out and I can see who's looking for your house. I send them your house is information, like it's on the market. Hey, this 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath bungalow, whatever the case may be, your buyer's looking for. Check it out.
Yep.
Is it something you see us do? No. Well, we do it on the regular because we're actively looking for buyers for you.
Absolutely.
It is not just cut and dry, put it on the market and hope somebody comes by.
Because you could do that yourself.
Right, exactly.
Why would you hire us? But again, and that's why we're making these videos. We offer value, but it's things behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see.
Absolutely, and it's something that I don't think is discussed enough. As far as when we come to list your house, what we're gonna do as a marketing strategy.
For sure.
Well, there you go. This is one of them that people don't see, on a day-to-day basis.
For sure.
So, advertising, everything's advertised, just about anyway.
Yep.
I know there's Facebook, social media. I mean, how does that work with Facebook? I mean, I know we can do it on our own, but I mean, is there an actual strategy or an actual program that Facebook has that you can blast out things like that?
For sure. So we have business pages. Go follow us on our business pages. We have business pages, and not just us, but all of the agents within our company, and we're all over Southeast Michigan, well, Southeast, and we're even north. And so that our listing is going to get blasted out not just here, but all over. And you would be like, well, why would that matter? Well, you never know. Maybe there's somebody in Lapeer who wants to move down to the Belleville area, and you have a house listed in Belleville.
Yep.
Oh, looky here. And then on top of that, we can do Facebook ads. And you may say, oh, Facebook ads. I've heard success stories. I haven't had success story of my own, but I know people in our office have had great success running Facebook ads because it's localized, and people in this area see it.
And it's not necessarily it's reaching people that might not be a part of our inner circle or
Right.
our company. So I think that's a great touch point as far as Facebook
sure.
ads. Other social media, YouTube. That's definitely an avenue. More so Facebook, I think. I mean, YouTube, is more content like this. Yeah. But there is I don't call it outside the box, but it is a program that I use called Chalk. Basically, your house, and I can draw a big old circle around it. Or let's say, I know there's a Home Depot nearby or somewhere where, it might be ideal for people to see your house. I can draw a big old circle. I pay for that circle. Again, that comes out of our pockets to advertise your house. So that's why, that 6%, that's why we command 6% so that we can do things like this.
For sure.
I pay for that circle, and it's kind of like a geo-fencing. So if you're on your phone and you're within that circle, you're on your computer, you're within that circle, social media, certain websites, your house is going to pop up. That in the digital age, when phones are right here,
all the time,
it's very important that we branch out where the business is, where the potential buyers are.
Sure.
So that's just again, another episode where we can get into strictly advertising. Just an idea of what we do behind the scenes.
For sure.
Another one, not so much behind the scenes, open houses, but what it is behind the scenes is us getting into the neighborhoods. How does that look like?
So if it's at all possible, when I do an open house, I like to go ahead of time, and I make a flyer, and I have, if it's your house that you're selling, it's your house on there. Have the information about it. Have my information to call if they have any questions. And I go before the open house and knock on the neighbors' doors and say, hey, I'm holding an open house. Do you know of anybody who's going to move in here? And I mean, hey, how many times have you known somebody, or you live in a neighborhood and you're like, ooh, I like this neighborhood. I wish my sister lived here, or my best friend lived here, or
Right.
Everybody knows somebody. So, getting that information out there, hey, who do you know? And then two, like, hey, come take a look so that you can see if it'll fit your best friend's needs or your sister's needs. And honestly, I mean, I know sometimes people are like, nosy neighbors, I didn't want them coming through my house. If you can, just let them come through during the open house. And again, they may know somebody, and word of mouth is a powerful thing. Maybe they don't know somebody, but their sister's cousin's goldfish does. No, I'm just kidding. But everybody, we all have mutual connections. And so by opening your house up and saying, hey, come through, take a look, we're going to be there. In fact, the way that we do open houses, we have 2 agents there. That way we have 2 sets of eyes on everything, right? And so we're going to open that house up and let people come through and take a look, and word of mouth spreads. It really does.
Yep. And so, touching on what we do digitally behind the scenes, what we're doing, we're hitting the pavement and we're physically going out saying, hey, guess what? This house is for sale.
Come see it.
So I think that's a perfect spot for us to end this half of the video. We're definitely going to be doing another one.
Yep, to be continued.
How do they contact you to talk more about this?
So you can call me, text me at 734-645-7448, or email me. My email is lydia@yourrealtorlydia.com.
I'm Dan. You can call me, text me, 313-282-6861, or you can email me at dansturgillcbp @gmail.com. Take care, guys. We'll take care of you.
Doodles.